I stood on the edge of that road for about an hour and never stopped moving the whole time. By now it was about 5 o'clock at night, and the closest lodge was 45 miles west, or 8,000 feet below, which was about 30 miles down the east slope. I would be frozen in another couple hours. As I stood there moving from foot to foot and swinging my arms, I wrapped a bandana around my hands. I thought of my guitar and realized it would be frozen and cracked soon. There was no way I could go down to the truck and back for anything. My lungs were hurting and my mustache was now frozen to my beard for my breath. What an appropriate way to end my journey. All of a sudden, a little car came around a corner with its headlights on. Glory, hallelujah. They stopped and told me to get in. I told them my story, and they had a cell phone in their trunk. The man and woman in the little red car had just saved my life. We called AAA's 800 number, and the closest tow truck was in Sheridan, 50 miles away. These people waited with me for about 2 hours, and finally a tow truck came up the mountain. As it pulled up, it looked like a holy beacon. Lights were flashing as I stepped out of that warm car, but I was warmed up, and I told those folks goodbye and thanked them for saving me. They drove away, and the driver of the tow truck took a look at the van and decided how to winch my vehicle up that hill and onto the road. I got into his cab and watched. He got it out quicker than I expected, and it was caked with snow. Once it was upright and on the road, I got it started. I rearranged everything in it and found my big parka, snow boots, stocking hat, and gloves, climbed back into the tow truck and handed the driver my AAA card. He looked at it and said, "What the hell is this?" "I'm not AAA. You owe me $275 in cash, or I'll push that van of yours back down in the hole and leave you here." He had a gun on the dash and was a lot bigger than I was. That's all the money I had. It was as if he had looked into my pockets and counted it. I did not argue. Instead, I thanked him and was polite and friendly, and I gave him the last bit of cash I had. He dropped his mean side down long enough for me to steal a piece of paper from his receipt pad, and on the top of it was his service station address and phone number. I stepped out and he drove off into the night. As I got into my van to write down this bastard's tag number, another tow truck pulled up. It was AAA. I told the driver what took place, and he said I would have to turn him in at the police barracks in Sheridan. He followed me down the mountain after taking my AAA information. Now both trucks had been paid. I was very angry and cold and thankful and tired. I needed food, and sure enough, there was a restaurant at the bottom of the mountain. I had about $53 in change in a coffee can, and I went in to eat. I didn't know it, but I had just been taken by one of the oldest tow truck tricks in the world. Here's what happens. I called for AAA. They contacted the service station owner at home. He contacted his driver by CB radio and told him my location. The other towing service heard the report on the radio and knew if he got there first and posed as AAA, he could probably rip off some out-of-state person for a couple of $100 in cash. Whomever the poor slob was would be glad to be saved, and when AAA showed up, would use their card after losing their cash, and all three parties would go their separate ways. The out-of-state traveler would go on home to New Jersey and be thankful they were saved. I was not from New Jersey, and I knew I'd been robbed. I was not going to put up with it. His ass was mine. The next day I drove to the state police barracks and reported the highway robbery. Then I went to the AAA dealer in Sheridan and told him. And then I was going to file a lawsuit in small claims court, but before I did, I called the phone number on the service stations that was written down on the receipt from the outlaw tow truck. It was a phone number 90 miles away in Buffalo, Wyoming. This man told me that I had been robbed by his son-in-law, who ran a station for him in Sheridan. I told him that I was on my way to the courthouse and that I'd already been to the state police. He asked me to drive to Buffalo, and he would give me my money back. I asked him why, and he said his son-in-law would go to jail and his daughter and grandkids wouldn't be able to make it without the worthless bastard's financial support. He said if I would just come to Buffalo, he would make everything okay. I was touched by the old man's story and said I was on my way to Buffalo, and I told him that he had better be telling me the truth. I am probably the easiest sucker on the road, but something made me believe the old man's story. I didn't want this kid robbing any more people, and as I drove toward Buffalo with less money than either one of these station owners would ever have, I couldn't help but think of the gift. The gift was given to me, and I was born to give it to others. Mountain John, born to be a rambler. Karma is a funny thing. What goes around comes around. Someday that station owner will read this book, and maybe he'll help someone in distress instead of ripping them off. Wyoming was tough, and it was cold, and so is life. If you stay home because of fear, you'll never see the world. I returned to the house in Thermopolis and told Big Gene my story, and he grinned and called me a fool. I said, yeah, and look who quit their job to go fishing in Montana with me. I didn't have any idea that by Thanksgiving I would be in jail in Jackson Hole for a DUI, arrested by a crooked Wyoming state policeman. I also had no idea that the judge would drop all the charges and turn me loose so that he and his wife could come and hear my show. By January, I had called John Larson in New Hope at John and Peters, and he wired me $250 to get back to Pennsylvania. I never wanted to go fishing in Montana again. I just wanted to be warm and safe among friends. I also wanted to sing and write and be happy.